Number 5. The Lost. 2006's The Lost is based on the novel of the same name by Jack Ketchum about real-life serial killer Charles Schmid. The film starts off with the character based on Schmid, 19-year-old Ray Pye, shooting 2 campers in cold blood while his 2 friends watch on. 4 years later, the police know that Ray has committed the double murder, but they don't have enough evidence to charge him. Ray becomes more and more cocky as things quickly spiral out of control. As tragic as the crimes seem in the movie, they are even worse in real life. In 1964, Charles Schmid was a 22-year-old, good-looking, charismatic, and popular man living in Tucson, Arizona. Schmid was also vain and wore makeup, including drawing a mole on his face. He also hated the fact that he was short, and he was known to wear cowboy boots stuffed with newspaper and flattened cans. On the night of May 31st, 1964, Schmid's girlfriend, a young woman named Mary French, and Schmid's best friend, John Saunders, lured 16-year-old Aileen Rowe out to a remote area. Once there, Schmid raped the teenage girl and beat her to death with a jagged rock. After killing her, Schmid, French, and Saunders buried the body. A year went by and the Tucson police had no idea what happened to Rowe. However, one person who did know what happened to her was Schmid's new girlfriend, 17-year-old Gretchen Fritz, because Schmid had bragged about killing the girl. In August 1965, Schmid wanted to break up with Gretchen and she threatened to go to the police. Schmid snapped and strangled her to death. Afterwards, he walked down the hall and strangled Gretchen's 13-year-old sister, Wendy. He then dumped the bodies in the desert. Schmid ended up showing the dead bodies to at least one friend, and that friend went to the police. Schmid was arrested and he was sentenced to death. However, that was overturned and he was sentenced to life without parole. In prison, Schmid didn't get along with the other inmates, and on March 10, 1975, 2 prisoners attacked him and stabbed him 57 times. He died 10 days later. Number 4. The Amityville Horror. One of the most famous American ghost stories is the Amityville Horror. While the authenticity of the haunting is questionable, what isn't questionable is the barbarity of the crime at the heart of the infamous movie. The Defeo family of Amityville, New York were well-to-do, but their eldest child, Ronald Butch Defeo, was a problem child. Throughout his life, he was sent to therapists and psychiatrists. His parents, Ronald and Louise, tried to settle his temperament by giving him anything he wanted. This included a speedboat and a car. As an adult, they set him up with a cushy job at the family's car dealership. However, none of this helped. Butch still had a nasty temper, and he and a friend stole $20,000 from the family's dealership. On November 1st, 1974, at 3 in the morning, Butch, who was 23, grabbed a rifle and walked into his parents' room. He shot each of them twice. He then moved on to his siblings' room. Don, 18, Allison, 14, Mark, 12, and John Matthew, who was 9, were all killed by a single gunshot to the head. After slaughtering his entire family, Butch showered and went to work, acting as if nothing happened. Around 3:30 on that afternoon, Butch went to a bar near his house and told the patrons that someone broke into his house and shot his parents. The police were called and Butch originally blamed the murders on a mob hitman, but when the police questioned his story, it quickly fell apart and he confessed to the 6 murders. In November 1975, Butch was given 6 consecutive life sentences. A month later, the Lutz family moved into the Defeo's home, giving birth to the story of the Amityville Horror. Number 3. M. Fritz Lang's M is one of the most disturbing movies from the first half of the 19th century. Released in Germany in 1931, it features Peter Lorre in his first starring role as a child serial killer named Hans Beckert. One of the motifs of the film is that the killer isn't shown on screen. Instead, viewers know he's around because he whistles in The Hall of the Mountain King by Edvard Grieg. While the movie is very creepy, the crimes it is based on are even more terrifying. Hans Beckert is based on real-life serial killer Fritz Haarmann, also known as the Vampire of Hanover. Between 1918 and 1925, Haarmann killed 27 young men and boys. His preferred method for killing his victims was by ripping out their throats with his teeth. Haarmann was arrested on June 22, 1924 after trying to lure a boy to his home. Haarmann's trial took place in December 1924, and it was a media sensation. He was found guilty of 24 of the 27 murders, and he was sentenced to death. He was executed via the guillotine on April 15, 1925. Number 2. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. John McNaughton's serial killer classic, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, was filmed in 1985 and it was released in 1986 with an X rating. As a result, the producers had a problem finding a distributor for the film, but by 1990 it was being shown at midnight screenings and it had amassed a cult following. The film is about the fantasies of Henry Lee Lucas, a real serial killer drifter who was operational between 1960 and 1983. So the film isn't exactly a biopic, but there are a lot of similarities between the movie and real-life events. Notably, Lucas and another serial killer, Otis Toole, did team up for a while. They met in 1976 at a soup kitchen in Jacksonville, Florida, and they became involved in a sexual relationship. Toole said that he and Lucas murdered 108 people together, which could just be the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Lucas's real body count. After Lucas was arrested, he confessed to 3,000 murders. However, his body count is probably closer to 11, which is how many times he was convicted of murder. Lucas died in prison in 2001. Toole, on the other hand, murdered at least 6 men, women, and children, and he died in prison in 1996. Sadly, we may never know how many people Lucas and Toole really murdered. Number 1. Snowtown. A slow-burning and dramatic horror movie, Snowtown is about the murders committed by John Bunting and his gang of vigilantes. The film follows Jamie, a lost and bullied 16-year-old living in Adelaide. Early in the film, Jamie meets the charismatic Bunting, who asserts himself as a father figure, and then Bunting leads the young man down a terrible path that includes torturing and murdering many innocent people. This true story, known as the Bodies in the Barrel case, unfolded between 1992 and 1999 in a suburb of Adelaide, Australia. The real-life John Bunting hated homosexuals and pedophiles and wanted to kill them. Bunting, along with his girlfriend's teenage son, James Volakis, and several other young people, ended up torturing, murdering, and dismembering 11 people. This included friends, neighbors, and even the wife of one of the gang members. Often, the people were beaten, strangled, or shot to death. In one case, the victim was apparently cannibalized. After the victims were dead, 8 of them were stuffed into acid-filled barrels and then left in an unused bank vault that was being rented by Bunting. Bunting, Velasquez, and 5 other people were arrested in connection with the murders. Bunting was given 11 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Velasquez was sentenced to life without the chance of parole for 26 years. Thanks for watching Criminally Listed. If you like what you saw, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe. We post a new video every Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks again for watching.